Level 1. The Siege of Toulon. The year is 1793. You are 24. A young artillery captain. Unknown. Unproven. France is tearing itself apart. Toulon has rebelled, handing the vital port to the British. The Republic is bleeding. It needs a miracle. It gets you. You take command of the scattered Republican artillery. The generals are fools, wasting men on direct assaults. You see the true target. The heights of Aiguillette. Control the heights, and your cannons control the harbor. Control the harbor, and the British fleet must run. You haul heavy guns through the mud. The assault begins in the dark. Rain lashes down. You lead the charge yourself. A British bayonet pierces your thigh. You ignore the blood. You take the hill. By dawn, your cannons rain iron on the English ships. The enemy fleet panics and withdraws. Toulon falls. You are immediately promoted to brigadier general. Paris knows your name. You have saved the Republic. But revolutions are hungry. And soon, the chaotic streets of Paris will demand blood. Level 2, a whiff of grape shot and the Army of Italy. The year is 1795. You are 26. Paris is in chaos. Again. A royalist mob marches on the government. The Directory panics. You do not. You line up the cannons in the city streets. You load them with grapeshot. You fire directly into the crowd. The rebellion shatters. They call it a whiff of grapeshot. You call it order. The government rewards your ruthlessness. They hand you the Army of Italy. It is a joke. Starving, barefoot, and mutinous men. You give them a promise. Honor, glory, and wealth. Then, you march. You strike with lightning speed. The Piedmontese fall. The Austrians break. Lodi. Arcole. Rivoli. You charge across narrow bridges under heavy fire. Your men follow you into hell. You do not lose. You redraw the map of northern Italy. You are no longer just a general. You are a conqueror. Europe trembles at your name. But the British still rule the seas. And to break them, you must look beyond Europe. You must sail into the scorching sands of the ancient world. Level 3, the Pharaoh of the Republic. The year is 1798. You are 29. England rules the waves. You must choke their wealth. India is the prize. Egypt is the door. You sail across the Mediterranean. You bring an army and a legion of scholars. The Mamluk cavalry rides to meet you. You form infantry squares beneath the Great Pyramids. The ancient stones watch. The enemy charges. Your disciplined fire shatters them. You are the master of Egypt. But victory is an illusion. Admiral Nelson finds your fleet anchored at the Nile. He annihilates it. The sea burns. Your ships sink. You are trapped in the desert. You march into Syria. The fighting is merciless. Disease ravages your ranks. The Middle East becomes a cage. But news arrives from home. France is failing. The government is weak. You make a ruthless choice. You abandon your trapped army in the dead of night. You slip past the British blockade. You set sail for Paris. The Republic is crumbling. And a vacant throne waits in the shadows. Level 4, Coup of 18 Brumaire. The year is 1799. You are 30. France is rotting from the inside. The Directory is corrupt. Bankrupt. Weak. The people are starving for order. They need a savior. You return from Egypt not as a deserter, but as a hero. You find powerful political insiders. You plan a sudden takeover. It is the 18th of Brumaire. You march directly into the government chambers. Politicians scream in rage. They lunge at you. Your soldiers draw their bayonets. They clear the halls. The coup is entirely bloodless. The Republic dies quietly. You rewrite the rules of the nation. You maneuver yourself into the role of first consul. You are now the military dictator of France. You hold absolute power. You do not just rule. You rebuild. You centralize the fractured government. You draft a massive new system of laws. The Napoleonic Code. Order is finally restored to the streets. You have saved the state. But the old monarchs of Europe watch in terror. They will never accept a self-made ruler. To survive the coming storm, a consul is not enough. You will need a crown. Level 5, the son of Austerlitz. The years are 1804 to 1805. You are 35. You stand inside the towering walls of Notre Dame. You take the heavy crown from the hands of the Pope. You place it on your own head. You are Emperor of the French. But peace is an illusion. Britain pays the monarchs of Europe to crush your new empire. The Third Coalition marches. You meet the massive Russian and Austrian armies at Austerlitz. You are heavily outnumbered. You lay a perfect, deadly trap. You deliberately weaken your right flank. You make your lines look thin. Vulnerable. The enemy takes the bait. They surge forward to crush your right side. They leave their center completely exposed. The winter fog rolls away. The sun of Austerlitz rises. You unleash your hidden reserves directly into the enemy center. You split their massive army in two. You shatter their lines. Fleeing soldiers plunge into the freezing water as your cannons crack the ice beneath them. You utterly destroy the coalition. With one stroke, you erase the 1,000-year-old Holy Roman Empire from the map. Europe is yours. But the old powers refuse to bow. And soon, an entirely new coalition of empires will rise to test your wrath. Level 6, the Master of Europe. The years are 1806 to 1807. You are 37. Peace never lasts. Prussia and Russia unite against you. The Fourth Coalition marches. Prussia boasts the greatest army in the world. You prove them wrong. You meet them at the twin battles of Jena and Auerstedt. In a single, devastating day, you shatter their entire military machine. Their proud regiments collapse. But the Russians fight on. You push deep into the freezing east. The winter campaign is a grinding, brutal nightmare. Then comes Friedland. You trap the Russian forces against a rushing river. You obliterate them. Tsar Alexander is forced to seek terms. You meet him on a raft in the middle of the river. You sign the treaties of Tilsit. With a stroke of a pen, you divide Europe. The West is yours. The East belongs to Russia. You are the undisputed master of the continent. But Britain remains untouchable across the sea. To break their economy, you will try to lock down all of Europe. And that dark obsession will drag you straight into an endless, bleeding war. Level 7, the Spanish ulcer. The years are 1808 to 1811. You are 39. Britain still defies you. You must starve their island. You enforce a total European blockade. Spain is a weak link. You march your armies south. You depose the Spanish king. You place your brother on the throne. You expect the people to bow. They do not. The entire nation erupts in furious rebellion. This is not a formal war. It is a merciless fight in the shadows. Guerrilla fighters ambush your supply lines. They strike from the hills and vanish. The British send troops to fuel the fire. You pour men into the meat grinder. Hundreds of thousands of French soldiers are trapped in the peninsula. They call it the Spanish ulcer. It bleeds your empire dry. It drains your resources. It shatters the myth of French invincibility. You cannot afford this endless war. But a far greater disaster is brewing. In the east, the Russian Tsar defies your blockade. He prepares to betray your fragile peace. To punish him, you will assemble the largest army the world has ever seen. And you will march straight into the frozen abyss. Level 8, the Russian Abyss. The year is 1812. You are 43. Russia breaks your pact. They open their ports to British ships. You demand obedience. The Tsar refuses. You will make him pay. You assemble the Grande Armée. 600,000 men. The largest military force ever seen. You march east into the vastness of Russia. But the enemy does not fight. They retreat. They employ a brutal scorched earth strategy. They burn their own farms. They poison their own wells. They leave you nothing but ash. Finally, they turn to face you at Borodino. The slaughter is absolute. It is a victory, but a hollow one. You push forward. You capture Moscow. You wait for the Tsar to surrender. Instead, the city bursts into flames. The Russians have burned their own capital to the ground. Winter arrives. You have no food. No shelter. You are forced to retreat. It becomes a horrific death march. The freezing wind shatters your army. Starvation claims the rest. Over 80% of your men perish in the snow. You abandon the survivors and race back to Paris. Your aura of invincibility is gone. The empires of Europe smell your blood. And they are uniting to finish you. Level 9, the Battle of Nations and First Fall. The years are 1813 to 1814. You are 44. Europe senses your weakness. The sharks are circling. A massive sixth coalition forms. Russia, Prussia, Austria, and Britain unite against you. They corner you at Leipzig. The Battle of Nations. You are vastly outnumbered. You fight bitterly. But the slaughter is overwhelming. Your lines crumble. You suffer a devastating defeat. You retreat to French soil. The enemy marches straight for Paris. You fight a brilliant, desperate defensive campaign. You strike and fade, trying to save your crumbling empire. But it is not enough. Paris falls to the Allies. Your own generals break. Your most loyal marshals enter your room. They demand your abdication. You have no choice. You surrender the crown. They strip you of your power. They banish you to the Mediterranean island of Elba. You are now the emperor of a tiny rock. The world believes Napoleon is finished. They think you will quietly fade into history. But they forgot one crucial detail. You are not a man who stays a prisoner. And France is already calling you home. Level 10, the 100 Days and the Rock of Exile. The years are 1815 to 1821. You are 45. Elba is a cage. You break the bars. You slip past the British blockade. You land in France. The new king sends an army to stop you. You step alone in front of their loaded muskets. You bare your chest. You dare them to shoot their emperor. They lower their weapons. They weep. They join you. You retake the throne without firing a single shot. But Europe will not let you rule. The Allied armies converge. You meet the Duke of Wellington at Waterloo. The battle is a brutal, agonizing stalemate. Then, Blücher and the Prussians arrive. Your final gamble shatters. Your legendary Imperial Guard breaks. The British take no chances. They banish you to St. Helena. It is a desolate rock in the South Atlantic. You spend your final years writing your own myth. You die a prisoner at 51. You leave behind no lasting dynasty. But you leave a world forever changed. Your civil code still governs nations. Your campaigns still define warfare. You began as an unknown artillery officer. You conquered a continent. And you became immortal.